Silly Billy. Okay, guys, I've just started recording, so we're only officially just starting now.
Right. I'm going to pull up the
cuss warning, there may be cussing because
maybe
Paul talks like a fucking stevedore. So if you don't like that...
Well, listen, I'm living in Macuntha, so, you know...
Hey, you can't help but swear, mate.
I can't help but swear when I just tell you where I live.
Okay, and I just wanted to say, over the course of the summer break, where we missed you all terribly, we lost a couple of bright lights in the Red Dwarf universe. We lost Gustav after a long struggle, and that's awful. And we also lost, as you know, Seb Patrick at the tender age of 37. And we're thinking of you and your family now. I know Red Dwarf meant a great deal to Gustav and his family. And we're thinking especially of Lois and Joe, who Seb left behind. And there is somebody will put up a link, I'm sure. There is somebody to contribute to them. It's raised quite a lot already, and if you've give again, guys, it'll give them some security at least over the next few weeks. That's the horror over. We have got now a new member on the team, Curtis Threadgold, who's named after a Bond villain, obviously, and lives in a volcano. But he's taken the reins, and you know, he's not Seb, but he's Curtis, and he's great, and I'm sure you'll all get to know him very well. And our very special guest today, Mr. Arthur Smith, who
hello everyone,
who we're delighted to have on board. And we were talking just a little bit, Arthur, about what a bloody devastation that Rona's wreaked on the stand-up industry. It's just horrible, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I in common with, you know, every comedian have had, you know, Edinburgh festivals cancelled. Obviously, that's a huge date in the comedians' folder. It's where everyone tries out new shows and everyone goes there. But that was cancelled. I've had a tour cancelled. I mean, every gig's cancelled, and there's not really any help for comedians. I don't think they're really recognised as people.
But I know at Brent Cross they were running some sort of drive-in stand-up gigs, and they cancelled them all because they just couldn't get...
Yeah, I mean, I've done a couple of outdoor ones. Southwark Cathedral was one of them, and Tring, and they're Zoom gigs, but they're not quite the same, really.
You don't get the buzz, do you, Arthur? Comedy is such a social activity. I don't see how you do it locked in your car in a car park, you know.
I know. Well, it is a very strange. It's like doing a Zoom gig. I'm sitting here chatting. Well, I suppose that's what's happening here now. But I'm trying to make 200 people laugh who I can't see any of them, or I don't know if they are laughing. And it's it is a bit depressing. But then, you know, it's worse for some.
It is slowly coming back. Ruby did 5 shows at Norwich in a tent. And, that
yeah, but we're talking about comedy, Ed.
You are in such you are a dead man. You are the hitman coming round to your house now.
Hit woman, I should think.
Yeah, there are various new things being tried out. I'm doing a show in some strange outdoor place in Sydenham in a couple of weeks. That's also got a huge indoor bit that you can have a few in. Yeah. Obviously, one of the problems is that the number of audience members you can have is a third of what it was.
Yeah, it just feels empty, doesn't it, Ed? By the way, Lucy, the only reason we pick on Ed is because you're so fond of him, and it makes us very jealous. It's your constant lauding of Ed that makes us pick on him.
Yeah, and he deserves it too. Okay, so guys,
by the way, of all episodes, this episode, he should have won a BAFTA for this episode. It's an extraordinary piece of technical.
I have to say, watching back at this episode, it's even if we got the script now with all the technology we got available, I still think it would be a real toughie to do, because there's just some basic things about this show which are so complicated to wrap your head around when you're actually making them. That I just watched it and I thought, wow, this really stands up. Particularly, you know, when the technology is available with movies like Tenet and stuff,
Yeah.
And you kind of look at it and you kind of go, oh, yeah, well, we've done this.
You're way ahead of your time.
We did this ages ago.
Because the technical stuff, Ed was talking briefly before this, the technically difficult thing is, you shoot the shot backwards and you have to think when you reverse it and it comes back into normal forward action, you have to make that seamless, and it's...
Yeah, I mean, you basically had to shoot back, so you had to obviously shoot forwards and then reverse the shot in the edit and cut it into a forward sequence. So there's only a few machines in those days that could actually record the forward sequences onto tape in reverse. So you had to have a lot of faith in the planning for all the backward sequences. And as Rob says, instinctively, a director will plan a shot to finish in a way that cuts nicely, to the following shot.
And you've got to start with that shot.
So when you're planning it backwards, you have to sort of think of the front of the shot being the end, and then get the geometry right so that people walk through in the right direction. Otherwise, they might leave frame this side and walk in.
I do remember you, Ed, at one point I came to the rehearsal room and you were literally lying on the floor and just with a sort of "do not talk to me" sign up.
I mean, to add to the confusion, we also shot some shots forwards, pretending they were backwards, and mixed those up with shots that would eventually be backwards. So it was kind of tricky to keep the narrative going, and I think Tenet will, when you go to see that,
have you seen Tenet?
Adequately explain how difficult it is to keep a narrative going with people forwards and backwards at the same time.
I'd just like to point out that I am able to sing Jingle Bells backwards. And somewhere along the way.
Go on then.
You want to do it now? All right.
Yeah.
Ils ne possono wanantivici. Oh no, hang on, I'll start here. Ils ne possono wanadaruci tantamo e wawa ulich lebonich. Shilubel, shilu, owe, oh, last days, so fancy. But obviously, you'd have to turn that round and realise that
I could tell that was Jingle Bells, couldn't you, everybody?
Why did you bother? You just got Arthur to do everything and you wouldn't have had to do it.
Yeah.
Okay, is somebody turning that round while we speak? Actually, I wanted to show you something as well. This is from a contributor. This is Alex Slingsby has made this for us.
What have you done, Alex?
Oh, where's it gone? It didn't play, sorry. Here we go. Smooth.
Nice.
Okay, thanks, Alex.
We'll have it.
I thought it was going to be backwards, Alex. I thought it was going to be backwards, but good.
There we go. Okay, Series 3, Paul, it wasn't that easy to persuade them to commission it, was it?
Funnily enough, Season 2, they recommissioned after the first episode of Season 1, and the numbers weren't at that point that good. It wasn't a big rip-roaring hit, and we were expecting a big fight to commission Series 2. And in fact, we went on to the BBC review program Open Air, and I was able to say on air, we've got Series 2 already commissioned, and that made us very casual, I suppose. So once we finished 2, we thought, oh, well, that'll be okay. We'll just start planning for 3, and the message didn't come. And eventually, I can't remember exactly. I think there was a change of controller, which might have been something to do with it. But no, we had to push very hard. We thought it would be a given, and we had to push very hard to get Season 3 commissioned. Which thank God we did, because otherwise that would have been the end. Once you don't do the next show, then that's the end.
Yeah. Okay, so well, let's get into it. We can talk about the changes, and certainly we can talk about the opening. Is that in? Didn't we do the opening scroll?
Yeah, it's a long scroll.
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
Okay, I just watched it and didn't see that. So okay.
Rob, have you?
You what?
You have watched the show. You did write the show, did you?
I did.
Lagging this whole thing.
Okay.
What year was it?
It'll be 89.
5, 6.
No, really?
I don't know.
No, we didn't start till 87.
Oh, right. It'll be 86 then, will it?
It'll be 89, I think.
I wish I hadn't asked this now.
All right, we're going to press play.
And we're going to press play in 3, 2, 1, play. Okay, I've got the Starfield.
I've got a Starfield.
Starfield.
I've got, here we come, Red Dwarf 3, the saga continuums, the story so far.
Oh, yeah.
And so on.
Yeah, and what it was Paul, while we were shooting the final show, Paul was saying, what the fuck are you going to do at the top of the first show? You know, because it's so madly different. And in the end, we'd been putting it off. We just went away and wrote that thing and said, just run it through so fast nobody can read it.
Well, you wrote something which you had no faith in, so you said to it, run it through so quickly.
So this new opening title sequence were little cuts from the current series and the series before. It's done. I just did a little experiment when I had a little at-home editing suite, and I showed it to Rob and Doug, and they went, "We like that." So music, so we could put this comp together as just a different way of introducing the shows.
Yeah, because we abandoned the explanation at the top, didn't we?
Well, you didn't need it by the end of the second series. Also, don't forget, guys, to look out for guest appearances by both Mr. Grant himself.
Yes, indeed.
Who you should all now recognise from the previous commentaries. But Mike features in this a couple of times, I think.
Yeah.
Mike Agnew's in it twice. This is a great scene with the...
Oh, God, I love this scene so much.
Yeah, fabulous.
Hang on, I can't see it. Where am I meant to press?
No, don't worry, Arthur.
It's the Wilma Flintstone scene.
This is difficult, Arthur, because we should have warned you that you don't see it. You have to play it yourself at home.
Oh, right.
So these are the new bunks. You can see everything's been all sort of jazzed up.
No banana, no floating continuity error.
No floating banana, folks. I'm sorry about that. But it's the sexy new bunks, and the whole thing you'll see. Well, obviously you know.
Because this is
where
the new designer, isn't it? This is the Mel Bibby years now.
Yeah, Mel Bibby came in, and
yeah, we got us a new designer.
So a completely new set. Presumably after series 2, we destroyed the set, and this is a complete rebuild.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh God, the Captain Scarlet.
Captain Scarlet, and this is a massive chroma key sequence, which.
Oh, you're freezing, Ed.
Kind of keyed in pretty well, but and obviously this is a very funny driving test sequence.
So how big is that model, Ed, that looks gigantic? Is that just
it's about 4 foot.
It's quite big. It's
quite big. And maybe no, I don't think it was that big actually. Sorry, that's an exaggeration.
No, I thought it was quite a small model. Yeah.
But that's a tricky shot to try and get the angle on chroma key like that, where when Crichton turns around and looks up at Starbug, it means you've got to get the angle right down on the model to try and match it, put his face in the foreground. Somebody has pointed out to me correctly that during the sequence when he presses the wrong button, I'm not ruining anything here, we've all seen it, when Chris flies out through the ejector, that you can see the harness, which I failed to remove.
Oh.
I had the technology to do it, actually.
You can see it now. You can actually see it.
Actually, now you've said it, Ed, you can actually see it.
I'm afraid. I just didn't have the technology to remove it. It's wobbling about too much.
It'd take you about 3 minutes now on a Mac.
Less, 10 seconds.
Well, I think you should go back, Ed. I think we should get the master out and fix it.
Now, that was obviously that shot where Chris flies out on the exterior of Starbug. That was really him, obviously.
But obviously.
That is the only embarrassing shot in the entire series, though, so don't be,
And it's funny, really, isn't it? Because this is Crichton's first shot at being a member of the team, but you don't even think twice, do you?
No, he's there. He's just... Well, what was the name of the typing course, the touch typing course somebody's asking, that you recommended?
Mavis Beacon.
Oh, yeah. So this is a nice shot. Lovely model shot there. It's fabulous. Where Starbug hits the cargo door before it flies out into space. And
So
there's a selection of
something like that. Peter Bragg just gives you the finished cut, does he? You give him the instruction, and Peter just produces.
Yeah, he shot them for us. And this is a nice shot where it goes around the corner. We added this tire screech. Only in space can you hear Starbug have a tire screech that goes around the corner. But,
Oh, there's Hats. Now, Hat came to the first day of recording from Edinburgh, and she arrived in a ball gown.
Yes, she did.
To rehearsals, because she couldn't get her clothes in the flat from Edinburgh.
Yeah, the clothes were locked in the flat or something, weren't they? So
She just come straight from the party in a
straight
ball
from the
gown.
end of season party at Edinburgh. That's right.
Oh, that was her story anyway.
Yeah. So they're talking about stopping distances now. Good gags here, really good, funny stuff. And it's interesting looking at Robert. His face has changed. The mask has changed over the years.
Hasn't it? It's much thinner and more pencil-like. You know.
Actually, I think, yeah, now here's the wormhole. Marvelous wormhole. This was devised by shining a light into some water, doing a swirly thing, and then changing the colour in the edit.
Brilliant, really.
Technology.
That is a locked-off shot.
There you go. It's a plug-all.
Water, yeah. Really, Ed? That's a locked-off shot of spinning water, and then you put the red in the edit.
Yeah, exactly. And then we keyed it on top of that shot. That's why it's breaking up. I wanted it to be solid, but it wouldn't. First backward shot, second backward shot.
Yeah, now I've got to say, Ed, a rabbit rubbing its four legs together looks the same backwards.
I was being subtle, Roy. If you look carefully in the shot where they were underwater, the fish were swimming backwards.
Oh, I'm very impressed.
Thank you. I keyed in.
Very impressed. So how many people pick up? Come on, honestly, on the first viewing, how many people spotted the bird was flying backwards and thought, something's going to happen? Yeah. I mean, all that effort you go to, Ed, and if there's one person who saw it.
I'm just little subtle hints. It's art, you know.
I know, so I'm saying if one person spotted it.
Thank you.
People being honest here and say, no, they didn't. I must admit I didn't either, but, and I knew it was a backward episode.
It was called backwards, wasn't it?
Well, that was the clue, Arthur, yeah. But there was also a bird flying backwards for no good reason.
These shots here of Hattie are obviously locked in, they're not chroma key, so we managed to get a shot of the Robert's
chest plate,
and then flitter some lights around the edge of it to make it look a little bit better. There's a famous nod. The first time I did an edit on this, I couldn't think of a way of keeping the dialogue working, so I was on that shot of Nodnall for about 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Robin Dog coming up and going, could we have a bit more of Nodnall, please? Here's a nice backwards shot. So obviously Chris is acting backwards for this, now forwards. This bloke's backwards. And now we're on forwards. So it's, you're constantly planning these things.
So the actors,
here we are.
The actors are just doing their lines, Ed.
The London and Manchester.
It's Market Street, isn't it?
Traffic lights backwards. Yeah, and it's nice to take these GV shots. They all work really well backwards.
So you shot all these specially. This is not stock.
No. We shot all these. And
it's raining in Manchester. Who would have thought?
Who would have thought?
Now, the shot of Robert and Chris walking in the crowd, the way we did that is that Robert and Chris are walking backwards, and then we filmed it forward. There's Rob Grant inhaling his own cigarette.
Yeah, and Mike Agnew.
But the shot.
But nobody blinked. I thought we'd create a brouhaha, but it's Manchester.
No, so we had Robert and Chris walking backwards down the street. Robert dressed up as a robot, and
Chris like Captain Scarlet.
Nobody's even looking at the camera.
Yeah. I think this lady was a little nervous. I mean, they don't normally spill that much tea when you.
Yeah, that's a lot of tea to spill. It's most of it.
Worked with us before. It's a pretty strange thing to be asked to do, and the eclair could be open to many interpretations. Ed, I can understand.
Yeah, I know. I don't think we could use an eclair in the future.
Must have thought she walked into a satanic ritual.
It was the writers. It wasn't my idea. Some of these shots in here, she's speaking back. It's shot forwards, and we asked her to talk backwards.
Did you get the whole eating sequence in one take, Ed, or did you have to do lots with the eclair and the cut? Was that all in one take?
It was one take, I think, but there was a shot of the eclair on the plate, which allowed me to get an edit. So this is acting backwards. Actually, this is shot forwards, obviously, because it's difficult with the two boys. So she's acting backwards, if you see what I mean, but it's actually shot forwards.
Maria Friedman, the legendary Maria Friedman.
Yeah. So nice touches, the menus backwards behind Robert.
Yes, yeah.
Nice little touches. His head different.
Yeah, I like the anti-Crichton jokes. That was, you know, we got in a car crash and forgot to get out.
Yeah. So some great ideas about Michael Ellis. There's something about Michael Ellis. Who was Michael Ellis? There's a story about him, Rob, the bank robber.
Oh yeah, I don't know what it. Yeah.
I can't remember what it was.
So Arthur,
Roll off deodorant.
when you got the script, Arthur, what, I mean, how did it appear? Was it written in forwards in the script?
I have absolutely no memory of that whatsoever, Paul.
No, he just made it up.
Yeah, I think Arthur's bit where he came into the dressing room at the end, I think it just said Arthur gives them a bollocking.
Yeah.
And, you know, he just let him go.
Yeah, that's right. There wasn't a script. I just came on and sort of made it up. Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, it was only one take as well.
You didn't have any forward dialogue, Arthur. You just burbled away all your lines, did you?
No, Arthur had to say some words backwards because we had because we'd had Craig and Danny in the foreground of shot, so it had to be a forward shot.
So you actually
occasionally
backwards.
Arthur had to say the odd word backwards, which we, you know, like
The classic Erskine.
Erskine for a start.
Erskine.
Yeah, I think he said thanks backwards, and same again. I think he said backwards.
Yeah, and I can still do, as we know,
You had to learn all that in rehearsal,
jingle
Arthur.
bells.
It's a skill that's never left you, Arthur.
Was that the first time you'd done this skill, Arthur? I mean, was this just something that...
Well, I used to be in a review company, and I think we'd done this before. I'm not sure if it was before or after the Red Dwarf, but we learnt songs backwards in order to sing them. I don't know why, really, because at the time we didn't have the technology to spin them round, I don't think, but that's what we did anyway. And I only remember Jingle Bells, but there was even more than that we did. It's funny because
So you could do whole stuff backwards anyway, Arthur.
Yeah, that's why he's in it.
That's what are there any actors we know that can do backwards speaking? Arthur is...
Yeah, I'll give you a quiz. What Harold Pinter play goes backwards, as it were, at least in terms of the action?
The three-hander, the
Betrayal.
Betrayal, yeah.
Oh.
Betrayal.
Yeah.
Now, those clouds in the
Great
back
play.
should have been
Are they going backwards? You wouldn't know.
Agent Cloak. So this was where Star by Glands.
Yeah, you made us do this, Ed, because you didn't want to. You didn't want to have to chroma key the shot all the time.
Yeah.
So we had to invent this cloaking technology, which makes no sense. But there you go.
And that shot there is just basically them standing on a box, but it looks like they're right.
Oh, Kieran Reeves is saying he's seen Howard Goodall play the Red Dwarf theme backwards. We had Howard on last time. He was brilliant. You just listen to him all day.
He can play it backwards. That's it. So this whole cloaking mechanism that they engage, that is a request from the director, Rob, is it? Just to make
Just to make his life slightly easier.
Now this shot of Craig coming out of the water backwards, he acted that, so it was a forward shot with Danny, but intercut with backward shots of Craig getting out of the water. Apparently, I don't remember this, but apparently he got his foot caught under a root or something at the bottom of the lake, and we all thought he'd drowned. But why I don't remember that crisis is beyond me.
Because you don't care. You do not.
He was stuck under the water for an unfortunately long time, was he?
Yeah, I thought we were going to run out of tape. I mean, it was that serious.
He said his boots filled with water, apparently.
How many people did die in the shooting of all the series?
Only 7.
Oh, well, that's not bad.
And none of them were principals, Arthur, so it didn't matter.
So Brothers Reverse, that says, or Reverse Brothers.
You know what? I bet Donna's got one of them posters.
Yeah.
I have got one of those posters, but I don't know
Have you
where it is.
really?
Yeah. The Reverse Brothers, yeah.
So this is where the 2 idiots think they're in Bulgaria instead of... it's very funny.
This is the classic 2 idiots together. One of them knows he's an idiot and the other one thinks he isn't.
Yeah.
It's the classic relationship.
Interesting, this was, I think, one of the first times that we did a lot of shooting outdoors.
Yeah.
A lot of exterior stuff, isn't it?
So a lot of exteriors in this. Very challenging. Just to say that this is an interesting moment. They're stealing a tandem. So that's obviously a forward shot where they run away with the tandem and they get on it. Then the bloke is backwards, so we had to get him to perform backwards, and You get it. Now that's a forward shot where Danny says we're off. Then it's a backward shot where the tandem flies off, but there's a close up. Here it is, with Danny, and they're actually travelling backwards, but it's 4 members of the crew just below shot pushing the tandem backwards for them to do their dive.
Now, I was just going to say that technically, from a plot point of view, that couple should be saying thank you for returning the bike, shouldn't they? Not
they should. And also, technically, from a director's point of view, why?
Oh, look, somebody else spotted that.
Stealing a sodding tandem.
Why are they stealing a sodding tandem? I mean, once you get into the logic of it, Rob, it's unanswerable. I must admit, the first time I saw it, my immediate thought was, what happens when you go to the toilet? And of course, you save that gag for the very end.
Now, the sequence with this van driver, this is another example of how you have to try and cut 2 shots together, one forward and one backward. So this shot of Danny and Craig looking at the poster is forwards. And then when you cut round to this guy, he replies backwards. Yes, I know this pub, hop in. And he's, acting backwards by doing that instead of that. And then this is the wrong way round as well. And you see Craig
should be dropping them off.
A bit strangely, that's because the shot is backwards and they're walking backwards.
So Robbie's now busy destroying the entire timeline of this whole episode.
Oh no, everybody else has noticed.
He's put so much work into it, and he's now pointing out that none of it was worth it because it's all.
No, there's a couple like that where you think it would have been easy to put it right.
I've got another quiz question. Yeah. What Spike Milligan song is related to this?
I'm walking backwards to Christmas.
Yeah. Friends here, Arthur. Come on.
Well, you sing it then, Paul.
Now, what was Hawksy doing? That's a straightforward forward shot, yeah.
No, it was backwards with Tony Hawks. So we had to,
you shot it forward and then reversed it, yeah.
Now the guys are forwards when Chris and Robert come on, but some of the crowd reactions are backwards. And interestingly, the genesis from all of this, my first introduction to this entire episode, was I went around to Rob's house and he had a keyboard and he went, listen to this. And he said bitter into a microphone and then pressed a key and it went Erskine. And I went, oh no. Oh my God.
Yeah, Casio it was, yeah.
Yeah, Casio keyboard. So they still think they're in Bulgaria. And
who's been to Bulgaria?
You, Arthur?
I haven't.
You must have been, or Tony Hawks will have been, let's be honest. Tony
Hawks is number 1 in Bulgaria. Yeah.
Tony would have taken a cruise around Bulgaria and played tennis with their leading football star.
Yeah. So now the conversation.
Did you know each other well, Arthur, you and Hawks? Did you work the circuit a lot together?
Did we what?
Did you and Tony work the circuit together? Do you know each other well?
Yeah, well, I did a show with him in the 80s. It was Arthur Smith Sings Andy Williams, and he was playing the piano for me. And I've not seen him a while. He's moved to Devon now, I think.
Yes, he has. He was on one of these a couple of months ago.
Arthur Smith Sings Andy Williams.
Yeah, well, I picked it because I thought it seems like the show you'd least like to go and watch.
Ah, here's your first close-up, Arthur. It's you regurgitating a pint of beer.
Now that was shots for that was straightforward.
So you just had to drink a beer for that one, yeah?
Yeah, so the other skill that Arthur has is he can regurgitate an entire pint of beer back.
Now listen, when the boys do it, have they got devices beside the face when they do the beer?
Yeah, what you do is you put a upside down beer. You put a half pint beer glass inside the beer glass.
You can get them from prop stores. They were a staple on the Two Ronnies because neither of the Two Ronnies drank beer. Yeah. So whenever we were doing a pub scene, we had to have these special glasses that, in fact, there's less than half a pint in them.
It looks like a pint. It really does.
Like a pint. It's got a big filling in the middle, big glass filling.
Yeah. You take a half pint glass inside of a pint, upside down.
It was a standard order on the Two Ronnies.
Yeah.
Who was the barmaid, by the way, in the scene?
Now that is an RSC actress. I'm trying to remember her name. Hang on.
It's not Pauline Melville. It struck me as Pauline, but it's not, is it?
Yeah, Pauline Melville.
It is Pauline Melville. It is. Now a very successful novelist.
Yeah, I saw her. I saw her on a bill with Arnold Brown and Lexi Sale, Rick
That's right.
and Aid Edmondson at the comic strip.
Yeah.
She was one of her and Maggie Steed were doing stand-up in the very early days of the comic strip. But she's become a successful novelist, hasn't she, Pauline? I think she
has.
That's right.
Several hit novels.
So it's an interesting discussion that the two of them, all of them have here about whether it's actually nicer to be in a backwards world. And I was beginning to be sort of convinced until obviously the Santa Claus is some fat bloke who comes down and steals all the kids.
I like the way that Rimmer's really gone showbiz. He's gone totally.
I know, I love Rivers. It's like Ace, like Noel Coward version of River. No, Andy, I did know her very well from Young Ones, and I knew she did Boom Boom and so on with us. I just wasn't absolutely certain it was her in this episode. She was very much a part of the alternative sex. She created the famous line. They call it alternative comedy. It's an alternative to having a bloody good time somewhere else.
That was what all the other comedians always say. It's an alternative to comedy.
You've come along to see a night of comedy. Well, actually, it's an alternative to comedy. And what we're going to do is shout at you and throw beer over you.
Sounds like a good night out to me.
Well, Keith Allen's version of a good night out.
Yeah.
I'll harangue you from the stage and throw beer over
I love Santa Claus, what a bastard.
Yeah. Well, so this is now the moment, I think, where Arthur comes in. Here he is. And so this shot was shot all backwards. So Arthur had to give him a bollocking and then walk out backwards so that I could run the shot the other way around. This is Arthur in full spate here.
And he's
basically up as he goes along.
You're ad-libbing this, Arthur, yeah?
Yeah.
And he's saying something like, "There's some sad bastard at home."
That's right, yeah.
And
some people have done, there's some sad bastard at home who's actually bothered to turn this round and is looking at it, and you're a wanker, mate, or something like that. I'm sure it's like, I mean, people have endlessly changed it round and seen that now, of course.
Yeah, and it's very nice because you performed it really well because you had to perform the whole thing backwards. And then in the shot, when we reverse it, you walk out of that.
That's right.
Out of the dressing room, and then we added a knock just at the end, as if this irate, angry knock on the door before we went in.
Yeah, it's a good little.
One of the few times where the consequence event sequence was done logically and correctly.
Yeah.
Throughout the whole show.
Yeah, and now there's some more unnecessary eating business.
Yeah, but it just looks good. It just looks good, doesn't it?
With the cucumber being pulled out of his mouth and throwing things in the air and catching it in his mouth. But it's a good line, that. We got to get out of here. This universe is just too disgusting. This is Gareth. He's a stuntman. He basically choreographed
the stunt supervisor.
a fight for us. And so the fight was really was kind of difficult. I mean, he punches Craig in the eye, but he does it backwards, which he does very well. But he does punch him forwards in the stomach, which should have actually been backwards. But never mind, who's looking too closely. And then we have a mixture of forwards and backwards shots here for this sort of massive fight. So you've got Chris hiding behind a table, and the famous line, "Unrumble." And so now we have a collection of really good backward shots. Craig being run down the
now this is Ed having fun.
Danny
having fun,
people flying all over the place. We had 3 or 4 stuntmen. Shots of Gareth being thrown over the bar and little shots of Chris in there running forwards to try and keep the thing narrative working. The big punch up and lots of people diving off. Craig doing a lot of leaping around. I have to say, to his credit, he was great.
Yeah, he always would, wouldn't he?
And he wound up by being thrown through a plate glass window.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Backwards coming up now.
Well, presumably it wasn't plate glass.
It wasn't actually glass. It was Craig, and he gave somebody his front tooth back. Great gag.
So this is all in the studio, I presume, yeah?
So there's a stuntmen, and then we have other people. And there's Mike Agnew. And
There's Mike Agnew again.
It was a beautifully edited piece And I have to give credit here to Paul Jackson, who sat there trying to edit this sequence together while I was directing the rest of the show. And normally it would take him till lunchtime. He was still at it at 5:30, and we were
Oh my God. The things you do. Oh God.
I'm sure you did it properly though, Ed, in the main
Oh,
edit.
it was really good. It really worked as steam for the audience.
It was lovely to play it. That was a great thing to be able to play that into the audience the next day, wasn't it? You know, we could turn it around that quickly.
Oh, I've forgotten about the cat taking the charity money.
Yeah, the cat takes the charity money.
But some very loose morals in this episode.
Right? That was all shot in the standard Red Dwarf studio.
Yeah, absolutely.
In fact, the only Red Dwarf set we've got in here is the monk room, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, that's at the beginning, isn't it? And the Starbucks set.
The whole episode is all new sets, really.
Yeah, and one-offs too.
And one-offs, yeah.
Okay, I haven't got closing credits on mine for some reason, though.
They'll be at the beginning.
This shot of Danny, we wanted to get it right. I was so determined that we shot this shot of Danny flying up from the bushes about 8 times, and that's the one that we went for in the end. We couldn't find the right angle for it. Poor old Danny had to.
I love the way you save the most obvious gag for the very end, Rob. We're thinking, no, they're not going to do the toilet gag.
that shot where Danny's walking across. I was talking to him before, and I said, "You know, Bridge on the River Kwai, when Alec Guinness comes out of the hole." I said, "That's how you walk it." And he did.
Poker up your ass.
I think everybody should walk backwards for the rest of the day.
as a tribute.
It was a good episode, but boy, was that a mother to plan and put.
And we didn't have any extra time, Ed. I mean, you did that in the normal weekly turnaround, didn't you?
Yeah. I mean, in fairness, it was quite a lot of location work for us to be able to do that.
Yeah.
But on location, shooting stuff to go forwards, shooting stuff forwards to eventually go backwards was really.
I think it's an extraordinary. I think it's an extraordinary piece of directing.
Yeah. I remember getting the coach home afterwards back to London, and I raffled a pickled egg.
Yeah.
And I've still got a note somewhere saying additional thanks for raffling the pickled egg on the bus home. I think I got £1 for it in the end.
It is an extraordinary episode, it has to be said.
Yeah.
Yeah, somebody's saying how much of it was filmed in front of the audience. It can't have been an awful lot, can it?
Well, we had, to be honest, I can tell you, it was obviously the opening scene of the Flintstones, and then the sequences in the dressing room. That was all done in front of the audience.
Yes, but pretty well completed, isn't it? It was a very
my bit was in front of an audience, because I remember thinking if I could really go for it and do fuckings and cunts and everything, I thought, well, I won't do that, because it was a bit shocking for them anyway in the studio.
It was a bit.
And in actual fact, that's absolutely true. One of the few backward sequences we actually shot in front of the audience, we're hoping that the audience would understand that this would eventually be backwards, was Arthur's, and it was really good. It got huge laughs, and of course that was another problem I discovered. If you play something forward and then reverse it, the laughter goes yick, yick, yick. So we had to go back and try and remove the audience from that track, and then turn the laughs around and put them back on again. We used the same laugh, but it was a tough gig.
We should have played the laughs in backwards for that episode.
Should have done. yeah, definitely. But it was a triumph in the end, I think.
I think
everyone worked really well. The stuntmen, the
It's one of my favourite.
they did really well. Everybody
it's extraordinary, Ed, what you achieved, given this was still on 1-inch tape. I mean, it's just ridiculous.
But it was a collective effort, I have to say. I mean, I think the stuntmen were particularly good. The special effects guys, Peter Ragg and his gang, and stuff that was really inventive and clever. Some great gags in it. It was really well written. I mean, to be able to throw a stuntman across the bar and smash all the optics.
That's what you want, isn't it?
And Ed Wooden again at the fore, Mr. Genius in the edit suite. Ed Wooden was.
Absolutely. Like, for instance, the stock footage, like the bird flying backwards and the rabbit, that was really hard to do, because with the stock footage, it came on a certain type of tape. I can't remember what it was. and it wouldn't play in a normal suite, so we had to go somewhere else just simply to play it backwards and record it forward.
Record it off
Has there ever been, films where they've done backwards, or other examples of it?
Well, there's this new one, Tenet, which is.
Does he actually do reverse shooting though, Ed?
David Lynch used the actual little red dwarf in Twin Peaks. He shot him backwards.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, the technique of having something come out of your mouth and so on was back as long as silent films, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Some of the boulders rolling down the hill at, and people dropping out of buildings. Quite a lot of that was done on reverse camera. They discovered the trick of reversing the film.
Yeah.
It's shot in camera, yeah, for sure. Interestingly, in this Tenet film, they do actually have a sequence which I was quite impressed with, where they have a bunch of soldiers running forwards and having a battle at the same within the same shot as a bunch of other soldiers running backwards. It's got this sort of thing happening. It's a confusing film, though. I'll be interested to see what people think.
Did you go to the cinema to watch it, Ed?
I did, and I wore my mask the entire time. I discovered, as a result of wearing my mask the entire time, my glasses kept steaming up. So I dispensed with my glasses and then realised that my long vision has improved. So thank you, coronavirus, for that.
Hey, it's not all bad.
Socially distanced, the cinema.
Say again?
But they socially distanced in the cinema.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. In fact, I saw an afternoon screening of it. So in fact, it's only about 10 people in the audience.
Right.
We were all carefully lined up. And to be honest with you, you still can. I shouldn't be saying this because it's a blatant plugging, but my daughters are doing a show at a place called The Playground. And the way that you can book seats for it is you can either book 2 seats together, 3 seats together, 4 seats together, or 5 seats together, and then those sections of seats are all...
They create a space around you.
All spaced out.
I think you could have said it quicker than going 2 seats together, 3 seats together. Up to 5 would have got you there.
It's a writer's thing.
I'm sorry. Hey, Ed, speaking of writers...
Up to 5 seats together.
Have you persisted with your typing course?
I have. And I can touch type very, very slowly.
Have you always written in longhand otherwise then?
No,
Longhand, no one does that anymore. I think young people don't know how to do longhand.
Longhand, no, I bet they don't. I bet they don't write anymore. I came up from Euston to Wales yesterday in the train, and I was the only person in my entire carriage.
Did you have a ticket?
I had a ticket.
Was the cattle in there as well? When you say you're there,
come and check it as well.
I've been on the train a couple of times. I've not seen one ticket inspector. I mean, you can just go straight into first class and what the hell.
Exactly so. Exactly so. There were about 3 people on the entire train.
Ed, if you wash your glasses with milk, is that?
Oh, is that true?
You wash your glasses with milk, it stops them steaming, does it?
All right. But you can't see through them because of all the milk.
Because of all the milk. Okay, so we'll just wrap up then. Next week, what is it? What's the next show?
Next week, Rob, don't forget, we've got a theatre fund.
Yeah. Marooned, it's Marooned.
Marooned, one of my faves. Yay!
Great show.
At 2 o'clock.
Entirely shot handheld.
Yes.
Well, I'd like to say, what the heck?
I don't know how you do that.
I am still going to play this all back next week, Arthur. You're going to be a long way away.
Arthur, it's great to see you, man.
Good to see all you lot.
Yeah.
No. 35 quid again for the...
Anything you want to plug, Arthur?
Oh yeah, well I'm going on Patreon soon, so I'm cooking up all sorts of bits and pieces for that. So and I don't know, I can't be asked to plug anything. So I've got a book out, 100 Things I Meant to Tell You.
Oh, nice.
100 Things I Meant to Tell You. I'm getting that.
I meant to tell you, Arthur, about that book you wrote.
That's 101 things then.
Well, I'm buying it. We've got another lockdown theatre next Sunday. Private Lives, starring Robert Lindsay, Emma Thompson, Amelia Clark, the mother of dragons. I've spoken to her. Yes. and Sanjeev
Pedantically, folks, I
Bhaskar.
can tell you he spoke to her. It was a very embarrassing moment when he said,
It was embarrassing. There was fluid. I'm
it was
sorry.
very embarrassing.
But yeah, no, it's. I sat in on the first sort of chat with them all, and there's such electricity in the cast. It's going to be a fab evening. RTFlockdown.com. It's also advertised on the website. 35 quid a ticket, but well worth it. And you know, as we were saying with Arthur, this is a terrible time for the entertainment industry in general, and this Royal Theatre Fund it even helps comedians. What do you think about that, Arthur? But it helps everybody across the spectrum who's in live theatre. And
we did raise the maximum 35,000 on the Waiting for Godot we did a couple of months ago. So it'd be nice to be able to do that again. And it's an electric cast. They were very fun.
Louise Bannister is asking from Australia if we can tape it for Antipodeans. And that's not the first time we've had that. We should do a special Aussie show, shouldn't we?
We should, but we can't with these lockdown theatres because the copyright is so. The Noel Coward estate and the Samuel Beckett estate.
Well, I'm definitely going to beg them to do it because it's not fair, is it?
I know it's 4 o'clock in the morning. I know in Australia. I don't know what to say, but we're just not allowed to put out a recording or even indeed to make a recording. So I do apologise. It's horrible.
Well, I'm gonna put your case, guys, and hopefully at least we'll get to send a recording to you, not send one, but play one.
No, Rob, no. That's what you can't do.
I know we're not allowed to.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're now watching a copyright row taking place.
Before your very eyes.
Need a lawyer.
It just seems unfair.
Bring in the lawyers.
Okay, guys. Should we got any
All
advice?
right, goodbye, everyone.
Arthur, lovely to see you. Thank you so much for joining us.
See you at Clapham Junction soon.
See you at the junction. At the junction.
Bye.
See you guys.
I'm going for my Sunday lunch.